Borders.
This is CNN.
Tonight, exclusive.
I've never allowed anybody to ask me the questions that you're asking.
From child star to Hollywood legend to a man on trial for his life, Robert Blake tells me his story as he's never told it before. Explosive.
I'll get to you later, but don't think you're going to get off the hook. I was supposed to die in that cell, wasn't I, you?
Controversial.
Does that mean I'm lying to you?
I don't know. Are you?
What do you think?
This is Robert Blake as you've never seen him before anywhere. Do you think you're sane?
I'm what?
Do you think you're sane? Do you think you have your full sanity? Or has what's happened to you sent you slightly mad? What do you think?
Well, I'll tell you.
Tonight, Robert Blake, the Piers Morgan interview starts now. Good evening. I've been interviewing celebrities and public figures for more than 25 years. More than 2,000 people, including presidents, prime ministers, movie, TV, and pop stars. But I've never had an encounter as explosive, confrontational, or extraordinary as the one you're about to witness. Robert Blake is a Hollywood legend. He shot to fame as the star of the Our Gang series. He went on to a chilling role as a murderer in the 1967 film In Cold Blood. And he won an Emmy for the classic 70s TV series Beretta. But everything changed in 1999 when he met Bonnie Lee Bakley, the woman who became the mother of his child. In 2000, he married her. It was his second marriage. It was her 10th. Less than 6 months later, she was dead, killed by a gunshot to the head while she was sitting in a car outside a restaurant where she and Blake had had dinner. He was charged with his wife's murder, but acquitted after a sensational court case. Then Bonnie Lee Bakley's children filed a civil suit against Blake, alleging he was responsible for their mother's death. He was found liable, ordered to pay $30 million, and declared himself bankrupt. Now, since then, Robert Blake's kept a very low profile. He hasn't given a television interview for nearly a decade. Now, he's written a book called Tales of a Rascal, What I Did for Love. Tonight, he breaks his silence. And you haven't seen an interview quite like this. Robert Blake is a man on the edge, a man full of pent-up fury at what he says has wrongfully happened to him. Robert, how are you?
Well, I'm not nearly as interesting as you just described. But I'll take it and run like it's... Holy Toledo. Do I look like that?
You do.
You ought to take that raggedy thing out in the yard and bury it. I look like that? No, I look like that, God damn it. Okay, yes, sir, I'm sorry. I'm here.
When was the last time you gave an interview?
How am I? Well, an interview? Well, a couple of weeks ago at a motorcycle joint, a chick came up to me with a very interesting accent, and she interviewed me for quite a while. But I told
major
her
television.
I was on a program and that I wasn't available yet. But last time I was interviewed, I guess right here, the guy with with
Larry, yeah.
Yeah, when I was acquitted, I promised Barbara Walters, who saved my life, and won't talk to me now, but that's another story. I promised her that if I was acquitted or I went to jail or committed suicide, she would get the first interview. So I flew to New York, and I talked to her for 10 minutes, and I came back, and I've been roaming around the country and doing... What the hell have I been doing?
I don't know.
How are you, Robert? How am I? Well, I'm lonely, the way I always am. I was born lonely, I'll live lonely, and I'll die lonely. But the audience has always given me a life ever since I was 2 years old. I danced for them on the streets, and they threw money, and I said, I'm home. And it's nice to be back.
What do you think your public reputation is now?
My public reputation? I've been traveling around the country for a long time because I was kind of, after the trial, I was a nervous breakdown. And if anybody in my life, I didn't have anybody in my life, but if anybody loved me, they would have taken me to Hawaii and laid me down in the sand, but there wasn't anybody, so I just got in the car and drove around living on Twinkies and Weber's bread and grow a beard and walk into a pool room and shoot some 9-ball and stuff like that. But the fans have never, ever, ever left me.
You communicate with them through Facebook and stuff, right?
I had a Facebook. I don't know what the hell a Facebook is. I don't even type. But a friend of mine said, you need a Facebook. I thought they're going to cut my face or something. But they said, okay, now here it is. You just talk to the people. And it was very nice. The people said, well, tell us about Alfalfa. What was he really like? I said, okay, I can do that. And that was 2 or 3 pages. Somebody else was typing, not me. And that went on for a while. But then pretty soon, weird things started to happen. They started saying, well, that isn't really the way Elizabeth Taylor was. And I'm saying, I went to school with Elizabeth Taylor. I sat next to her when I was 5 years old. We were boyfriends and girlfriends. No, that isn't Elizabeth Taylor, and you really don't know. And I said, you know what? This is goodbye. But what was weird was I couldn't stop talking about myself to myself. And I started saying, God damn, this is an amazing life. Did I really live this thing?
How much, I mean, you've written this extraordinary book. There's another word for it. It is an extraordinary read. It is in parts compelling, in parts rambling, I'll be honest with you, in parts scary, sad, funny. It's everything. I've never read a book quite like it. I've probably never seen a life quite like it.
Said on the back of the book, he said, this is an amazing book, but don't publish it.
It's a story, unless I'm wrong, of, in your eyes, constantly being betrayed and let down. That's a theme that runs through from when you're first born and your parents want to abort you and end up they can't afford to. From then on, it just seems like your life has been...
If Frank Sinatra's mother would have worked for nothing, I'd have never been here. But she wanted $15 and he didn't have it.
Right, because she was the woman that was doing these at the time, right?
Okay, I'll get serious for just a minute. I know this is show business and we're supposed to keep it funny, but...
No, I'd rather keep it serious.
When I did all that Facebook stuff, and then I went in the closet and I found 2 boxes of pictures that I didn't know exist. They were full of rat and I pulled all these pictures out and I said, that's all me. And I said, what do I do with this? Somebody said, write a book. And I couldn't write a book because I'm not going to write 6 books. I'm only going to write 1 book. How do I put 75 years in 1 book? Well, you do it the way you just saw. There's 4 or 5 little chapters about the rascals. There's chapters about those rotten cops that ripped my guts out and left me beside the road to die. I'll get to you son of a later, but don't think you're going to get off the hook. I was supposed to die in that cell, wasn't I, you Well, I didn't die, and you didn't get your book deals, you mothers. I wrote a book about you. So you'll have to go out and rip some other celebrity till he's dead, then you can write a book about him. I'm sorry, I'm back. That's how, so the book became all of my life. There's 20 years of a crazy marriage, there's alcohol, there's drugs, there's the best of times. The best of times. When I was 8 years old, my life was exquisite. I went to MGM when I was 5. I was an extra, and I'm watching them and I say, wait a minute. If you talk, they pay attention to you. I don't care about the money, they pay attention to you. And I found love, just the way I found love on the sidewalk when I danced for the people.
Do you think you're sane?
I'm what?
Do you think you're sane? Do you think you have your full sanity? Or has what's happened to you sent you slightly mad? What do you think?
Well, I'll tell you. I think I was born. The truth is, I think I'm sort of a mutation or a subspecies. I think if I was born 10,000 years ago, I would have taken 2 or 3 people, gone off and started another tribe.
How much do you blame your parents?
I don't blame anybody. That book is about God. God kept me alive in a womb when my mother tried to abort me with coat hangers twice. God kept me alive for the first 2 years of my life when nobody gave a whether I lived or died. God showed me where that sidewalk was and I started dancing. When I got out here, I was 5 years old. I stood in front of MGM and I said, I can do this. And I walked in there. 3 years later, I starred in my first film.
I am curious because it's in the book and it's a powerful testimony in your life, I think, the relationship that you had with your parents, because from what I've read about that relationship, they didn't care for you, they didn't love you. You had...
I was a pain in the ass to them. Yeah, but they had 2 children. Then they had 2 abortions. Then she got pregnant again. But she really got pregnant with my uncle across the street because that's who she was always in love with. So now she's pregnant with me. He says to her, go to hell, and he runs off. Now she hates me. My father hates me because in his heart he knows that I'm his brother's kid. They tried to get rid of me, and they couldn't.
Did they ever tell you that they loved you, your parents?
Never. They didn't even talk to me. I was like a, you know, they paid more attention to a dog than they paid to me.
But although you don't necessarily blame them because of your belief in God, how much do you think did it damage your character, damage your personality, make you a damaged person?
Oh, I think that if I came from a different family, I would have been a very different person. I have lived my life in front of people. From the time I was 2 years old, I was in front of people, never with them. And I've always been kind of alone that way. But as long as there was a camera within 10 feet of me that I could get in front of, or if I can get in front of an audience, I feel comfortable, I feel at home, but I've never been a successful person in terms of relationships. You know, I'll give you one line.
Are you capable of love?
Absolutely. I love my life. I love God. I can't tell you. Love spills out of my ears at night when I'm lying alone. The gratitude that I have for my life. How could you not love a God that kept you alive in a cement box for a year? How could you not love a God that kept you in a womb when you were supposed to be dead out of the womb? Let's
take a short break, Robert. I want to come back and talk to you about the events of 2001, because clearly your life was very, very different after that.
Take that to the bank, brother.